Disclaimer, warning, the content will examine phenomena that some would find offensive, inappropriate, insensitive and triggering. This content neither suggests, nor implies, medical, or any other professional advice. This is a light-hearted discussion of a comedian and his therapist friend engaged in hypothetical conversation on black mental health. In the following pieces of content, affiliated, may be all information and opinion are independent expression of each other they freely consider adapted or opposing in their paradigm.
Peace to the universe.
Peace to the God.
Peace to the universe. What's going on, brother?
Not much, bro.
Okay. Are you hearing that double speech?
Double speech?
Yeah. It's just on my end.
No, I'm not hearing anything.
Hola, hola. Let's do the greetings one more time. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Peace to the God.
Peace to the universe. I played the disclaimer. Our topic for tonight, brother, is going to be what? Okay. Our subject for tonight is going to be mass hypnosis. We don't have to stick to the subject, but let's see where this rabbit hole takes us. We spoke about last week legal double standards. That was the title I came up with. Apparently, it wasn't a good title. We only had 5 listeners this week. I hope I didn't say anything to piss anybody off.
Well, I mean, I think that sounds about accurate. I mean, I think the most we've had is 10, so sound about
we
average.
had 10 2 weeks in a row. Let me besides the disclaimer that we give, should also inform any of our listeners, and we're always happy to have listeners, whether we have 2 listeners or none or 10. We're always encouraged that anybody would listen to 2 black men discuss mental health aspects and race. I think growing up here in America, brother, it is an integral part of our existence, our reality. It's not a popular subject, not even among black people, but it's one that we have grown to have a meeting of the minds in most cases on talking about this subject as it relates to just trying to survive and thrive in a world that's has the odds against us.
Well, I don't know. I think that mental health is something that is becoming more and more talked about.
Yes, sir.
And it's something that more people are becoming exposed to. It's not like it hasn't been here, but it's just not what people have called it, right? Particularly in the Black community. It's not something that people were really educated about. and so they just didn't have the tools, the resources, or the education to properly deal with mental health and mental health issues. So,
Absolutely.
it's making it's making progress and becoming less taboo to talk about.
Indeed. I was listening to Brilliant Idiots with Andrew Schultz and Charlemagne the God. Sometime I like a little laughter. And they Charlemagne the God was saying that there's going to be a Black Mental Health Expo here in New York City. I think it's either coming up or it was today. I may have missed it. Maybe it's the 18th, October 18th, in Times Square, Marriott Marquise. Let me see if I could find that while we have our discussion, brother. Um, so he's he said it's one of his biggest charities, um, the promotion of mental health issues for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He talks. He's a very big advocate of mental health
Mm-hmm.
and very transparent about him seeing his therapist and Black people going to therapy.
Right. It was taboo back in the days. In fact, we were supposed to be so strong that we didn't need. You don't need that shit, brother. We were very dissonant in terms of accepting that as a health issue. If it wasn't physical, if it wasn't hurting you in your ass, it could not be possibly um, going to take the Black man down. So it was a lot of ignorance in terms of therapy and how good therapy is, including group therapy. That's one of the experiences I had that was very helpful to me in terms of alcohol recovery, substance abuse, and um, depression, major depression. Um, it was very helpful.
Yeah, I don't think that historically Black people were strong because they didn't go to therapy and because they didn't deal with mental health. In fact, I think it was kind of stupid
Hmm.
um, to have that position, um, whereas their counterparts were seeking therapy the whole time. Um,
Exactly.
it's interesting because I think when I was doing my comps, before I got to my dissertation, I had to look at, I had to do research on two disciplines, and I think mine was on depression and um, oh my goodness, it's been a while. Um, uh, oh my God. It no, it was I think it was REBT um and CBT,
Hmm.
which is rational emotive behavior therapy and cognitive behavior therapy. I think I had to do research on both of those two disciplines. And what I remember is that discovering that counseling and therapy initially it didn't have its own field. It grew out of the field of philosophy and psychology, I think.
Wow.
And so, but what happened was in America, because America had realized in the beginning, the early 1900s, that there were a lot of different cultures and ethnicities coming into the country. And they realized that people were going to have difficulties interacting and engaging with one another because there were so many different cultures migrating into the country. And so out of that, psychology and philosophy, counseling and therapy was born because they wanted to teach people how to interact with one another effectively. And so that's where the discipline started, how the discipline came about. And what was interesting about it was that they then moved to put it into the school systems so that kids could start to learn at early ages how to interact and engage with one another. The problem was Black people were excluded from that because of segregation, right? So you had all these races of white people or people that look white now learning how, to engage with one another and interact with one another, while excluding Black folks until 1964, 1965, when we had segregation and integration, and Black folks starting to come into the school, and we saw what that looked like, right? So you had all these people that looked white, whether they was Jewish, whether they was Polish, whether they had come from Spain or Ireland, they all looked white, right? And so they all were able to interact with one another in a more proactive way, as opposed to Black folks, right? And so Black folks missed out on that piece for a very, very long time. And you and I both know that while it may seem like 1964 or 1965 was a long time ago, it really wasn't that long.
Not at all.
Right. And so if we go from that time to now, we can start to understand why there's such a big gap in the way that we interact with one another. And when I say one another, I'm talking about Black folks interacting with one another, Black folks interacting with other races and other ethnicities. So, so it makes sense that I use the word stupid, but it probably wasn't. It was probably not stupid, but very naive, because Black folks weren't used to therapy and counseling, and understanding how effective that could be and productive that could be. Because, I know in the South, they would say, or in the Black community period, they would say that, if you had something wrong with you, nobody would say that, you were schizophrenic or bipolar or anything like that. They would just say, oh, he touched. Or,
that nigga crazy.
He's special. Right. And so you would be a little off, but you ain't need to go see anybody. You ain't need to take any medication.
You just kept that nigga in the room.
Right. Or he came out. Or she came out and they just got picked on.
Boy, elevator don't go to the top floor.
Yeah.
The sharpest knife in the drawer.
Right.
All of the stereotypes. Yes, sir. Brother, that's so interesting that from a historical perspective, why it was needed and why it was also deemed that we didn't need it. It wasn't just our not being aware of it. It was just not going to be a privilege to have any type of uh, cognitive behavior modification, or at least be able to cope with situations that we were in. There's a term, epigenetics. Have you heard of that one?
I have heard that word.
Dr. Joy DeGruy used it as well to um, give some type of measurement stick on how Black people, even though they're no longer slaves, and uh, even some, especially young people, think that's ancient history, and it wasn't even 100 years ago yet. The 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 epigenetics are what's and they've measured this in psychology. Psychology being the science of mind or thoughts or how people behave. It, they measured how much like Jewish people going through the Holocaust, and now they're Jewish people here in America. Um, there are people that came from England that went through all manner of evil during uh, the Middle Age and the Dark Ages. But all of that trauma and stress, they can measure it in people today who never had one iota of that experience, who are thriving here in America, but they can see by the DNA in the gene pool that they are from a lineage of stressful situations. That's amazing.
Well, I think there are some people that it's all relative, you know,
Mm.
and because it's not all um Jewish people, all people who have been through something and they all just somehow miraculously have done well. Some of them have done well, some of them not so much. Um, I don't know if you've ever heard um, Hillary Clinton's story um, about her relationship with her mom and how her mom abandoned her, but and what her how her grandmother and the relationship her grandmother had with her mother. But um, I'm saying it to say that um, I think in listening to Dr. Joy DeGuru, what she was talking about was there is a sometimes it's not sometimes all the time, even though you were a descendant of, let's say, slaves, but you weren't directly a slave, right? But you still could be impacted by slavery and what slavery did to your ancestors, right? So, for example, I am 4 generations removed from slavery, right? So that
Yes, sir.
means my grandmother, who just passed away, um, I think this is going on the second year. She just passed away maybe 2 years ago. But her grandparents were born into slavery, right? So if her
Mm-hmm.
grandparents were born into slavery, you have to think about what impact that had on my grandmother's mother,
Mm.
right?
Yes, sir.
So that means that her mother was one generation removed away from slavery. And so if her mother was one generation removed from slavery, think about what that did to my grandmother and
Mm.
how it impacted my mother, right? So
Yes, sir.
no, not so while I wasn't born into slavery, I'm not that far removed from the traditions of slavery that would have come down from slavery.
Exactly. And the way she mentioned it, it wasn't that it was the all in all, that epigenetics was the like the chemical or biological aspect of what people's trauma, um how it passes on in the genes. Because there's also, like you said, the historical trauma that become we've all somehow escaped from now, or at least um, we're in a better situation than we were 100 years ago. Um,
Maybe, maybe not.
true indeed. It's
Yeah,
highly speculative
right.
um, to say that. And then there's we got the mental, we got the historical, and then we have the political. Just in terms of whether you want to recognize that you're black or not, you can't get the same privilege when you go into a bank to get a loan. You can't get the same privilege when it comes to access to education, so forth and so on. So there are multiple aspects of distress and trauma of slavery, and for European people in their history, there has been stress and trauma that they've carried forth. The one interesting thing that you started the podcast with is the historical context for why they combined philosophy and psychology and all of these different sciences to deal with the interactions of Europeans with each other and how they would be able to coexist, even though they're from different cultural backgrounds, different experiences as immigrants. That was very interesting. You are listening to Black Mental Health and Race. I am your host, MF Doug AF, and my co-host is Dr. Moore. Have you ever heard of the song Gangster? Let me see who it's by. Kalani. You ever heard of this song, brother?
I don't know it by name. I might know it by sound.
Let's play a little bit of. That sounds familiar?
I don't hear anything.
It's a song that she made. Kalani is the singer. She created that song, and it was used in a movie called Suicide Squad. Uh, Ironically, the movie title is a little um, misnomer because it was actually about um, the girlfriend of Joker, and the main character is get the name right now. It'll come back to me. It's not important, but they're both dealing with mental health issues according to their characters in the movie. And I didn't even know it was about Joker. And I didn't know why I kept hearing this song in my head and I kept singing it. So what I discovered this week is there's something called an earworm. You ever heard of an earworm? The term earworm?
No.
Ear as in EAR, worm as in WORM, all one word, earworm.
I don't think so.
Okay, so this is it kind of coincides with the 808 beats. You can put something, particularly like the popularity of Michael Jackson's Beat It song. It had sort of a quality of an earworm. This song that I just played, Gangster by Kalani, has such an appealing hook like that it just, when you just hear the song, I need a gangster. So this song just constantly playing in my ear. So my next question to you, brother, is do you believe in hypnosis?
Yes. I do. Yeah, so I do.
Do you
Because
believe that you can be hypnotized?
yeah, because
Wow.
for a while, Sigmund Freud, I think before he became, I don't know, if, don't quote me on this. I don't know if it
Mm,
was before he became um, a, a, um, a psychologist.
hmm
He studied hypnosis for a very long time, either before he became a doctor or right after he became a doctor. So yeah, I do believe to be hypnotized. In fact, I use that. I use a form of that, and
hmm
have used a form of that um, all through my academic life.
Wow, that's interesting. I guess I would be one of those black people that didn't believe in it. But
Well,
go ahead.
so I will explain to you in the way that I utilize it. Right. I
Mm,
want you to think about the um the who's your most famous actor or actress of all time?
oh, whew. Most she. It's a good question.
Okay,
Let
so
me see
why?
somebody popular. Actress. Let's go with what's the black lady in the one that just won an Oscar?
Viola Davis.
Not her, but we could use her. What's the other one? She was in the Whitney Houston and Tina Turner. She played Tina Turner.
Oh, oh my God.
I
Angela
can't-
is it Angela
Angela
Bassett? Oh,
Bassett.
she is beautiful.
Oh my God. Woo.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful, beautiful, phenomenal lady. But so I want you to think about it. I'm gonna give you that scenario, and then I'll give you my personal scenario. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever they are going to play an actress or person,
Mm-hmm.
what they do is they go into they study the person. They do this research on the person,
Mm-hmm.
and then what they attempt to do is become that person, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you see them. There's something they call going into character, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
they will almost leave who they are and go into character, and you won't even recognize them. You could physically see them as who they are,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll be in such character throughout the throughout making the movie that
Right.
you can't recognize them as who they
Right.
are because they literally become another
The
person,
character. Right.
right? So so I believe in hypnosis in that sense. Now, the way that I apply hypnosis is, you know, when I want to um, conquer something, right, or become something, then I put myself under a particular hypnosis to get through what I need to get through um, in order to get it done, right?
Mm.
So, for example, when I was going through my doctoral program, I realized that I couldn't get through that program being who I was.
Mm.
So what I did was, I put myself around other students who were trying to become doctors, right? And I
Mm.
told myself that you are only going to be able to do this doing what doctors do or doing what students that want to become doctors do.
Mm.
So I put myself in an environment that allowed me to escape who I was, and I went into this mode of being disciplined enough to allow me to do what I needed to do in order to get through my doctoral degree. So
Mm.
what happened was my mind state shifted. So when people would call me and say, "Hey man, you want to go out? Hey man, let's go get a drink, or let's go
Mm.
do this," it wasn't a second thought because my mind state was, if you want to be a doctor, you have to think like a doctor. You have to act like a doctor,
Right.
right? And so I brainwashed myself or hypnotized myself into this
Self-hypnosis.
into this different way of thinking, so that I could get what I need to get done,
Yes, sir.
right? And so, um, the same way with I applied with working out, with just different things I want to do or I attempt to do in my life.
Mm.
I shift my mindset, about, you know, what other people would do and
Mm.
what a person who would work it, who's disciplined about working out would do.
Mm. Exactly. And you had mentioned it last week, and I thought it was rather interesting how you were able to switch your mindset to something different. I think a lot of us as Black people are still stuck in a particular mindset, and that mindset is somehow got us in, some of us, or the masses of us, trapped in this ghetto fabulous lifestyle. Unfortunately. And a lot of that comes from the DNA, it comes from the history, and it comes from the politics. Um, I did look up while you were talking. Sigmund Freud studied hypnosis before he fully developed his theories as a psychologist and the founder of psychoanalysis. Early in his career, Freud was influenced by Jean Martin Charcot and Joseph Breuer,
Mm-hmm.
both of whom use hypnosis in their work with patients.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hey, you might wonder where I'm going with all of this. I want to play this song one more time as I try to hypnotize the audience. All right. So that's the song that should get stuck in your head. You won't feel it today if everyone would bear with me. But 2 to 3 days from now, if you in the audience hear that song in your head, that is called um, hypnosis, a form of hypnosis. There are many forms of hypnosis, like Dr. Moore was mentioning. That form of hypnosis called an earworm. It gets into your ear, and for some reason, a couple of days later, you can't get it out of your ear, and that's why they call it earworm. But it has something to do with your the chemistry or biology that that's the reason it gets stuck in your head. I had wrote down the definition for it, but I don't want to bore the audience. I just wanted to continue with tonight's topic of mass hypnosis. Um,
Yeah, I mean, and it goes further than just human beings, because a lot of psychotherapists were doing things similar to that with human beings in the beginning, because they just didn't understand mental illness. So they were treating them um, in all kind of ways to get them to perform the way that they wanted them to perform.
hmm,
Even having Pavlov. You ever heard of Pavlov and Pavlov's dog
right.
in that experiment?
Yes, sir. Where they get the dog to salivate and
Exactly.
then they remove the stimuli, which was the food, and
Right.
he would still salivate because they rang the bell.
Right.
They associated the bell with the food.
Right.
And so even when you remove the food, the stimuli of the bell was still there to make the dog salivate.
Right.
Very interesting. And I think that's how mass hypnosis works. Um, and I think it was a better substitute than conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories doesn't have um, any scientific basis or foundation. Like I just heard another podcast, Godfrey the comedian, and guess who he had on his show? One of the 5% of gods. What's his name? The guy that was on Vlad that stopped going to Vlad's platform. What's his damn name? Lord Jamar. Lord Jamar is the 5%. So he was on Godfrey, brother. And so my next question to you, along the lines of him being a guest on Godfrey's podcast, Lord Jamar, 5%. Do you believe in flat Earth?
I don't know what that means.
Thank God. There is, do you know that 11% of the United States population, which is over like, I think it's like 25 million, something like that. 25 to 30 million Americans, adult Americans, believe that the earth is flat today, 2024, after all of the people that were killed and all of the people that were tortured for even mentioning that the earth was round, that we have today a mass um, movement of people that believe in flat earth, and they're going around recruiting people based upon this foolishness. Are you
Well,
aware of that?
I'm not aware of that, but that doesn't surprise me. You know, I mean, because to me, I mean, we live in a world of historic um, um, what's the word I want to use? We live in a world of very fast technology and information,
Mm-hmm.
and people are not
Too
well.
swift. They not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
Right. So I was gonna say people are not educated, but it's not only that people are not educated, but there are a lot of people that don't have conversations outside of themselves, and there are a lot of people that don't have conversations outside of their circle, right? And so people look for, and because of the way technology is now, and algorithms, if you search for something enough, the internet will start to, give you more and more of what it is that you're searching for, right? So it reinforces the thoughts that you have, and it brings you into contact with more people that think like you think, right?
Exactly.
So it's not surprising to me that would be the case, but you live in a world of people that it's so crazy because you know it's like the truth doesn't have much relevance as the lie has entertainment, right? And so people would rather be entertained, right, than know the truth, right?
Yes, sir.
And in addition to that, people it's interesting because people feel like their thoughts are factual. They feel like because they think it, that it's a fact. And I've seen people with no accountability on podcasts talking about the ideas that they have in their head, right? And then they just put it out. And I remember talking to you before I went to college, and I remember talking and you said something profound to me one time, and you said, "Brother, I just want you to know, it's easy to sound intelligent to a fool." And
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you remember saying that to me,
Yes,
but
sir.
but I listen to people all the time, talking to people that don't know any better, and I mean, for example, I look at people like Donald Trump, who he just says things. He just says it.
They're eating the dogs.
And
The Haitians are eating the dogs.
and they're eating the cats, and it's just. I mean, he just says the. I
He
mean,
had the nerve to say that during a presidential debate.
but he was in. Look, the other day he
He
was in.
was that serious.
That's what I'm saying. He was in Detroit. He was in Detroit a couple of days ago at a rally, and what he said while in Detroit, he said, "If you all elect that woman, the whole world is going to look like Detroit." I mean,
I heard that sound good.
how ignorant, how ignorant. I mean, because Detroit is what, like 78% black.
Yep. And they said the city is run down because of the blacks.
And so it is just so crazy. He just constantly says, just says these things. Says stuff like that.
That's why I was gonna get to the who I had to, like, after last week's podcast on legal double standards. I had to find out who are these people that believe in this man? And why do they believe in him? So about 85% of his followers that's backing Trump, they're evangelicals. They believe in the return of Christ and the rapture, um, like Pentecostal Baptists, but white Baptists, not us. White Baptists, white Pentecost, and these people that are prophesied in the future. Which gets me to my next question. Do you believe that the 2,000-year-old Jesus is coming back to smite the earth, brother?
Brother. Well,
So I'm looking, brother. Let me explain something to you right now.
you
Brother
know,
Wilbur used to tell as soon as we said something stupid, he look here, brother.
yeah, exactly. Um, honestly, well, okay, let me answer your question directly first.
Yes, sir.
No, emphatically no.
Emphatically no.
And then secondly, I believe that because here's the thing. If Jesus was gonna come back, right? Why do I'm trying to hold my composure because I almost wanted to curse, right? But if Jesus was gonna come back, right? Tell me why he would go to a mega church, right? Tell me why he would go to a church where the reverend is dressed immaculate, has security, has a Mercedes, has a plane,
Private jet.
The congregation is dressed nice to the T. Tell me what business he would have with those people that look like they already saved, right?
They're
right,
thriving, brother.
right. Now, so if he came back, why would he go there as opposed to the homeless shelter? Right.
We're
So
gonna get to that tonight too.
all right. So that's one aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
The second aspect of it is if he came, how would you know that he came? What would he look like? Right? And so if he came, you wouldn't even know he was here if he came because you wouldn't know what he looked like.
That's right,
Right?
Muhammad. Yes, sir.
And the last part of it is, and to me, I believe that he's already here.
Amen, brother. Amen. So what we see here is these earworms can get in your ear and cause you to behave a certain way. Thank God for psychoanalysis so that we could figure out how to cure you of your delusions. But we're talking about mass hypnosis tonight. This is Black Mental Health and Race. I am your host, MF Doug AF, and my co-host is Dr. Moore. Let me give out the number right quick. So here's what Lord Jamar said. He said that the earth is flat and that the earth is not moving. And we know from the lessons, brother, that the earth is traveling at the terrific speed of 1,037 and a third miles per hour, which he studied, which he had to repeat as a 5%er. Now, I don't necessarily have to stick directly to the supreme wisdom lessons, but they do give you a blueprint of what you need to study. If the Earth isn't traveling at 1,037 and the third miles per hour, you need to find out why or how fast it is traveling. But he's saying, and it was shocking to hear this from him because he's a pretty on point brother in other respects, in terms of the black man and our plight here in America. But in this aspect, he believes now, from what he learned from the YouTubers that push this flat Earth theory, that the Earth is a sphere or a disc, and it's not moving. Everything else around us is moving except the Earth. The Earth is not standing still. So I got one exercise for everybody out in the universe to try tonight. If you do believe in flat Earth theory, I want you to try this. So I saw my granddaughter, I was babysitting my granddaughter, and she would just get up, brother, and spin around, spin around, spin around, spin around until she gets dizzy and drop on the floor. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Stop that. And I'm trying to get her to stop, but she is tickled to death by her equilibrium being distorted that way. So I asked the AI, why does a person fall to the floor after they started spinning? And they said it's a bone in the back of your ear that controls the balance of a human being. And when you spin, 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 you are actually activating that bone. And what it's going to do is gravity is going to take over because your equilibrium is off and you're going to fall to the floor. Now, according to, if we believe what the flat earthers believe, that the earth is not spinning, or even if some of them believe that the earth is spinning, but it's a flat disc and not a round ball. But if you do that experiment at home, if this was a flat earth, you're supposed to be, when you spin till you can't spin anymore and you get dizzy and fall, you should fall to the side laterally, horizontally, not down to the ground. The reason that we fall down to the ground is because of gravity. And that's how you know the earth is spinning. The only thing that's keeping us on this earth is gravity and inertia. But I don't want to bore the audience like that. I just want people to understand how mass hypnosis works and how an earworm works. There are things that are going to get planted in your psyche. And if you don't have the right discipline, as Dr. Moore would say, if you don't give yourself a better mindset than you have now, if you're not able to place yourself outside of your reality, you're going to be trapped in these delusions. You're going to follow people that don't know too much themselves, that are not very intelligent, that are not very smart, and you're going to be one of their followers. How about that, brother?
Well, I don't know about all that, but
highly speculative, but I
well,
thought it was interesting, mass hypnosis.
well, massive hypnosis maybe, but the um psychology of what you told me about Lord Jamal.
He's a psychoanalyst, brother.
Yeah, sounds like it. But I could tell you this. Tell him to drink a fifth of Hennessy or a fifth of Remy, and the world will spend the same god doggone way, and he'll still drop to the damn floor.
He don't believe it's spinning because he said he don't feel nothing. Like, that's that weed, brother. That's that ooh wee you smoking.
Yeah. Well, see, this is
You don't.
again. This is what I mean when I talk about when I say, we live in a world of technology and information. Well, and when you are having conversations with yourself, it's easy to sound intelligent, right? And just because you believe it, it don't make it so. I mean, what has he studied outside of his own thought process? What is he?
YouTube.
What is he math that up against? Where's the credibility? What makes what he's saying so?
Right.
And if he wants to argue, or anybody wants to argue, oh, you're going to get your information from the white man's institution.
That's what he said, brother.
I tell you what.
That's when the blackness kicked back in.
And that's fine. But I tell you what, let Lord Jamar get sick. Okay? I don't want him to go to the white man's institution for medical advice. All right?
He can heal himself.
Right, exactly. And I tell you what, for all the people that want to talk about the white man's education and all the rest of this, tell them to go build an airplane. I don't want them to go to school. I want them to
build a cell phone.
YouTube it and all that shit by themselves.
Right. You don't need that. You can build your own computer.
In fact, they shouldn't be poor.
Right.
They should be able to build their own land, build their own money. They should be able to change their condition overnight. I don't want them to get the white man's money. I don't want them to use the white man's YouTube. I don't want them to use the white man's
nothing. Start from scratch.
There you go. Just because if all of they want to call the white man's institution education, if all that bullshit and they know everything, I want to look at where they live, what they're doing, and how that is benefiting them. How is that rewarding them?
Brother, we got a lot of work to do. You said you're not doing it, though.
Exactly. You got a lot of work to do. I've done my work. I've done my work on me, and I'm doing my work on
me. Brother, you gotta help me save the world.
Look. I'm trying.
Because people believe some stupid shit out here, and it's gonna get us all in trouble.
It's not gonna get me in trouble.
They gonna come knocking on your door with a Bible.
Please do.
You gotta let them in, brother.
Please do. I will. I promise you. And I promise you, I won't have to ask them to leave. I guarantee you. I promise you, they will leave voluntarily.
The white man.
I remember there was these Mormons come through my old community.
Come on in.
Man, I used to welcome that. They would come in my building and knock on the door. Man, I'm telling you.
You walk them down like a dog.
Man, bruh, have a seat. And they start telling me about Joseph Smith. Man, I'm telling you, bro, they'd be so happy to leave they used to be so happy to leave my apartment.
That's what my father used to do. He would invite the Jehovah Witness in and argue them down, boy. And he had that West Indian accent. You feel blessed, my Christ. How could you believe that? Ah, man. But I had to put a little laughter here because we're gonna have to get into a serious conversation, brother. Diddy has been denied 3 times, thrice, as the scriptures say, bail. And I wanted to entertain an aspect that most people are not looking at. Diddy is the first person with a RICO charge, brother, not to defend him in the least. If he's done any of these accusations against minors, he deserves everything that he's getting and experiencing. However, from a historical standpoint, I wanted everybody to look at all of the popes, all of the what was the other type of leaders they had? All of the Caesars, and just even current day. I have seen porn on the internet, brother, that's worse than the allegations that they're charging this man with. And this is not a defense of him, but I wanted to put an earworm in everyone's ear that going forward as Black people, as I'm trying to save the world, Dr. Moore, going forward as Black people, we should have, like we did in the nation, brother, we had a check and balance system. So if we caught you having more than 1 meal a day, brother, somebody was there to check you. If you said something about the earth being flat or where'd you get that from, bro? you mentioned, quoted the Jehovah Witness or anything. There was some type of check and balance. Now here you got all of these billionaires, brother. This RICO Act not only implicates Diddy, but a lot of Black billionaires, and there's a lot of them, are going to be stripped of their money just for an association with him. And I don't think that what he did constitutes a RICO Act. It is criminal, yes, but a RICO Act is for an organization like the mob who are killing people and benefiting from it. I don't think this is the case. But what is going to happen, whether you Black people want to stick together or not, they're going to strip Diddy's mom, Diddy's associates of any money that they've earned from 1996 on, brother. All of that money is going to be confiscated. Everybody that's been associated with him will be part of that RICO Act in the future. That's just my prediction, highly speculative, but I wanted to know your thoughts.
About what specifically?
What we need to do going forward, we need to have checks and balances for our the people that they put out front for us in terms of mentors, celebrity mentors.
My mind doesn't think like that.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't think, because for one, I don't feel connected like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't look at those people as mentors or anything like that for me.
Right.
So, and I don't know how the community is going to realistically put checks and balances, even if that's feasible. I don't think it is. To check anybody like a P. Diddy or anything, or anybody like that. I don't think that there's a system set up for the what do you call these people? The followers to be able to check and balance them. I don't think that's realistic. If I think the only way to do that, I think, is for you to hold yourself accountable for who you are going to let be your mentor.
Yes, sir.
And I think that if you have a mentor that you can't physically touch, if you have a mentor that you don't have a direct line to, I would question your perception of what a mentor really is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one thing to admire someone from afar, but to call that person a mentor, I think is problematic if you're not interacting with them directly.
Right.
Right. So it's like I could like to box, right? But I couldn't realistically say that Muhammad Ali is my mentor, right? If he's not directly teaching me how to fight. I could watch his film, you know, I could watch certain people, films and things like that. But I couldn't, if he's not the person that's in the ring that's teaching me, he's not really my mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I could mimic my basketball game after Kobe, but Kobe isn't really my mentor.
Right.
Right. Unless I could do like Kobe and go to Michael Jordan and say, hey, show me how you do this. Show me how you do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really my mentor.
Right.
I'm really just admiring that person. Right. And so while that may have been the case in a nation where a person could, check you, but again, that's directly. It's not indirectly. And unless you are able to touch somebody directly, there's nothing you really are going to do that's going to impact them,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
Right. I'll say this: right, wrong, or indifferent. The nation, we had the drills, which are the marching drills, cadence, count your cadence, count off, and the parade dress, and all of this other drilling, military drills for marching. It was a mental stimulus to keep us all thinking in the same way. They told us to line up. This is FOI class. Line up. Your your focus should be so in tune that as you line up in size order, you are staring at the head, the back of the head of the man in front of you so hard that he can feel your eyeballs. But that's how mentally focused we had to be in the nation. And then we would have to do these drills. So that was like a physical exercise, but it kept us mentally bonded. Even to this day, they don't know how the nation still is so cohesive, even though we're all separate individuals. But that was one of the exercises that we used to do. In terms of Black people now, there is no exercise for role models that are in our life, in no way, like you said, to give them these checks and balances unless they inwardly are ready and prepared to go through some type of self-improvement or to change the trajectory of their debauchery. Are you familiar with a meeting in Appalachian, New York, between the organized mob or mafia leaders? It occurred in November 1957. Are you familiar with that meeting? Let me read this while you get back to me.
Oh, I'm sorry, bro.
The Appalachian
That's okay.
Meeting, also known as the Appalachian Meeting, was a significant event in organized crime history that took place on November 14th, 1957, in the small town of Appalachian, New York. This was a meeting of major mafia leaders from across the United States, organized by Vito Genovese, and hosted at the home of Joseph Barbara, a known mobster. Purpose of the meeting. The purpose of the meeting was reportedly to discuss various mafia business matters, including territorial disputes, the distribution of criminal operations, and plans to replace certain leaders. Organized crime figures from various families attended, including those from New York, Chicago, Buffalo, and Cleveland. This gathering was meant to strengthen alliances and resolve conflicts among the Cosa Nostra families.
Okay. If you'd like to hear more about the Appalachian meeting, you can look it up. Appalachia is spelled APPALACHIAN, Appalachian, New York. The reason I brought up that meeting, brother, is because the mafia was out of control. There was no checks and balances. There was no central organization. The United States was formed, and they began to create these states, and these states had to have some type of central government. That's where we get the federal government from, because all of the individuals have to somehow be put under the same checks and balances. I think that's what did not happen in the case of Diddy, although they're all in this same industry. There was no one to say, hey, man, get your shit together. You can't be doing this. They said that, what was his name? Denzel Washington was at one of these parties, allegedly or supposedly, and he got on Diddy for what was going on. Like, yo, what are you doing? So he checked him. But it's amazing how most of this went silent. But I remember seeing on the Channel 7 News, I think it was, where they had these models that were hired, and you would put like sushi on them while they were naked, and people would come and eat it. But now they're showing this happening at a Diddy party as a crime. I remember a lot of women doing this for business purposes. But as I state again, I'm not trying to exonerate P. Diddy in any way. I am trying to suggest to us as Black people, as you suggested at the beginning of this podcast, in order for the immigrants' influx into the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, what they used was psychoanalysis or cognitive behavioral therapy in order for us to get along and become a powerful nation. Are you still with me, Dr. Moore, or did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
What do you think about what I said? Or do you have any other thoughts on any other subjects?
Honestly, man, I mean, I I I don't really have a lot of thought process about this whole Diddy thing. I don't like the fact that I'm hearing um so many people use this situation as um an opportunity to get clicks or baits or likes or whatever, trying to talk about situations that they don't know anything about. I ain't never been to a Diddy party. I don't know anybody that's been to a Diddy party. So
Hmm.
I really don't know. Um, the people that I have heard speak about the Diddy party, I haven't that have been, and I'm not talking about, you know, people that are saying that they've been and they ain't really been. I'm talking about people that have just come straight up and said, like Nick Cannon. Yeah, I've been to Diddy party,
Hmm.
you know, and I ain't see none of that. So I don't know what happens, when it happened, how it happens. I just don't know. Um, so and I'm not so pro black. I feel like um the black community. I don't think the black community could have did anything about what Diddy was doing. Because majority of the black community wasn't there, right? You know,
Correct.
and the people that were there weren't telling the people that weren't there. So I really don't know enough to say anything, particularly anything intelligent about the baby oil, people having sex with men and women. I don't know anything about trafficking. It's interesting because I thought about and had a conversation with someone about what might be considered trafficking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's this thing now where they call it's called being flown out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that guys fly women out to their um towns or their cities, to be intimate with them or whatever. And I don't know if that's considered trafficking,
Hmm.
right? If they are of legal age, if they are consenting, you know, and they are flown out, is that trafficking?
Hmm.
So I don't know that I really understand the definition of trafficking. It was my assumption that trafficking would have meant like underage people,
Right.
underage, that was trafficking. But I don't know if bringing in a mistress is trafficking or not.
Right.
Or mistress or mistress, mister or mistress. Either way, um, if they are of consenting age,
Right.
I don't know if you're trafficking them or not. You know, um,
Which is why it makes um the charges kind of like trumped up charges. It's much ado about nothing. But the main theme of tonight's episode is this mass hypnosis. Diddy and his situation, criminal or not, is one of those earworms. We're not going to be able to get this subject out of our head. And I wanted to discuss why it's stuck in our heads, no matter how we want to dismiss it or ignore it. It's going to be there for a while, and probably purposefully. We have an election in less than 20. Is it 20 days, brother, before the election?
It's November 5th or 6th.
Right. And what's the day? It's less than 30 days before a major election in the United States. And the main topic of discussion is one, the Diddy situation, and two, Kamala's not black. So here are two earworms that have put black people on the wrong path of self-improvement, on cohesion, on checks and balances. And it's a powerful mass hypnosis, if you ask me.
Well, if you ask me,
Yes, sir.
it's not at all on my radar.
Right. But that's why you're thriving and most people are not. You have the discipline to discern and leave shit like that alone. You know that if you wanted to be a doctor and on the doctorate level, that you had to start acting like a student of doctoral level behavior, right? And I think that's what's missing from the masses of our people. We still stuck in a mentality. This is Black mental health and race. And if I could assess the problem that we face and discuss it and put it out in the universe, that would be my dissertation, brother, on what I see is the problem with the masses of our people.
Well, I don't know if for a person like myself, I wouldn't I don't see any benefit in entertaining what's happening with P. Diddy in my life at all. Absolutely at all. And I can tell you that what's happening with P. Diddy doesn't get probably 10 minutes of my day.
Right.
Maybe less than that, maybe 2. It doesn't get 2 minutes unless I pass by something or stroll through something but I wouldn't even click on that. I don't even click on that. So that's not something that is a part of my day at all. The thought of entertaining whether or not Kamala is black and having a conversation with somebody about that. If you said that to me, I would be like in my regular day.
Salam alaikum, brother.
If you said to me, well, she ain't a black person, I wouldn't entertain that. I would move right past you.
Walk off.
Right, because to me, I would look at you like I was in a barbershop and then getting a haircut. And one of the barbers is drunk. And he was trying to make a political statement. And he's talking about Kamala and Trump. And he called Kamala a penis sucking bee. And he called Trump P getting N-word. Right? And he said, he was like, well, so I ain't trying to get into nobody's politics. I'm just saying. Whoever
He's like Lord Jamal, bro.
Whoever you voting for. And I said,
funny that you said that, because that was something else that Lord Jamal said on the podcast. Kamala isn't black. But you see the theme here. People with these delusional theories, you understand the type of behaviors that they're going to exhibit. There was a movie called Stupid Is as Stupid Does. And for a long time, I wondered what exactly that meant. So when you look up the definition of stupid, it pertains to the person. But dumb, stupid versus dumb, when you look up the definition of dumb, it is more in line with an activity. So stupid is the person, dumb is the activity. So the person has to make wrong decisions to be considered doing something dumb. It's interesting that the same people with the same flat earth or the rapture or evangelical or this or that are doing the same certain behaviors, are exhibiting the same behaviors. And that's where I came to the point of who are these people following Trump? How could he have such a large following? And it's from people that think like that. If we can end this part of the podcast on the talking a little bit about the election, we'll leave Diddy alone. Um, your thoughts, Dr. Moore?
On the election, or Diddy?
The election. We're gonna leave Diddy alone, as you rightly suggested. We shouldn't spend 2 seconds on it, but I had to show how earworms work, how hypnosis works, and how mass hypnosis works before we approach the subject of politics and this major election year. 2024 will be picking the next president of the United States, and there's a lot at stake. And this is going to be a historical win, either side winning, because um, if Trump is elected, he's going to do the very thing that he suggests about Detroit. He's going to screw this country up worse than it's ever been.
Well, here's what I say. About
In my
earworms.
opinion. Let me say that. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Here's what I say about earworms before I get to the election.
Yes, sir.
If you allow, foolishness to get in your ear, I just want to ask you at the end of the day, how is that working out for you? And how are you benefiting from that? Right? Because to me, that should be your cutoff point. Because if you are serving your day thinking about P. Diddy, and what's happening with him, and the likes, I would argue that you probably don't have much going on in your life. You're probably not that productive. If you
All right.
are, if you are spending the majority of your day wondering whether or not Kamala is really black, you're probably not that productive. You probably need, right. You probably need to look at your life and ask yourself, well, what am I getting out of, me spending my time going down this rabbit hole? And I suggest to you nothing. Nothing.
Brother, you may have just saved at least 230 million people.
I doubt it, but but I think that is I think that is a sheer waste of time. It's just a sheer waste of time. And now if we're moving on to the election,
yes, sir.
I'm not encouraging people to vote for Kamala, I am asking, but I will say, a vote against Kamala is definitely a vote for Trump. And I don't know what a person's politics are, but if, I understand that some people are very angry with the world, and the way that it's looking for them. I get it. Some people feel like, well, if Trump wins, maybe that's going to force Black folks to get together and do something. Black folks are going to unite. But I've had this conversation with you on more than one occasion.
Yes, sir.
Right, and I like
heated conversation.
Yeah, and I liken that I liken that mentality, and the reason why I say it doesn't work and I think it's foolishness, because I don't know if you've ever been incarcerated, ever been to jail or whatever, but
Arrested,
it's almost like saying, well, you got more prisoners than you do guards. So why don't all the prisoners get together? Right? It's just not feasible, right? And
that's
so
a very good point.
When I hear people say that, it's like, again, it's like those people that live in a bubble, or the people that only talk to themselves. Right? And so they think they have a good idea, or they think that they're thinking something smart, but they really aren't. Right? And they aren't really talking to anybody outside of themselves, right? And so that's why when they say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to leave the room, because you can't elevate, right? So if you think all prisoners in a prison are going to get together and rise up against the small guards that are there, yeah, that's just ignorant thinking. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I don't care how many Black people you have in prison. What's going to happen is they're going to stay in their groups, in their unit.
In fact, somebody gonna do some snitching. These niggas planning to get out of here.
But that historically has always been the case. Look at
even in slavery.
Right. Look at Harriet Tubman, Democracy, DC, Gabriel Prosser. I mean, and on and on and on. But
John Brown.
Right. DC gonna stick with DC. New York gonna stick with New York.
The DC car, the New York car.
I mean, Chicago gonna stick with, but even in situations where they say, okay, we might have to link up with Philly, or link up with New York to go against these Aryan Brotherhood, right? They still gonna kill one another before they kill the guards.
Before it's all over.
They gonna kill one another before they kill the guards. So when I hear people saying stuff like that, I always keep saying, and what reference do you have that makes that thought process so? There's nothing historic about that thought process. So to me, it only makes sense that that person is only talking to themselves. It must be a very small classroom, because even if we're not looking at it like that, right? Let's go back to Shaka Zulu, right? Let's go back to before we came here to America. They were warring with one another in Africa. The tribes were warring with one another. The tribes didn't all get along. The reason why Black folks were able to be sold into slavery was because of Black folks.
Right.
So that thought process doesn't make sense to me. Even when they were on the boats, in the bottom of those ships, they still couldn't get all Black folks to unite. Some of them were saying, fuck that, I'm gonna jump overboard. Some of them were saying, you know what, let's united against X, Y, and Z. Let's unite
bum rush the captain.
Right. There was never a case where all of them was all on board. So to me, that thought process is just self-destructive. It's like wishful thinking. It doesn't benefit a person to think like that.
Well, I have the solution, brother. It comes from the very first thing we discussed tonight, and that was the stress level. The level of stress that we're under makes us make dumb decisions. We are indeed, as a mass of people, stupid. And that stupid is as stupid does, meaning that the collective does not have enough intelligence to overcome their situations. But we can achieve something on an individual level if you don't want to suffer in the same ignorance as everyone else. And on that note, Dr. Moore, I'm going to put it in your trustful hands to take us home, brother.
In the words of Russell Simmons, peace and good night.
What did Russell Simmons say?
You remember, what was it, Def Jam?
Yeah.
And Martin used to say he used to bring Russell Simmons up at the end of the night.
Yeah, thank you. And
he would say,
good night. God bless and have a good night. Thank you, God bless and have a good night.
Exactly.
Brother, have you heard of the twerk song before we go?
The what?
The twerk song.
No, I'm not.
I'm going to undo my spell that I cast on everybody with the Kalani song by playing this song. If you are listening in the universe, the spell that I cast on the gangster song, I'm going to undo with another earworm to reverse the spell. And this one is by Bossman D-Lo. Shake That Ass, the twerk song. Thank you for another positive-minded contribution to Black mental health and race, Dr. Moore. I always appreciate your assistance and your intrigue and insight. And I thank you to the listeners, however few we may have. I appreciate you more than you would ever know. And on that note, Dr. Moore, you heard of this song?
Nope.
She be a Patron with the OJ. She be familiar with the OJ. If he can buy you PR, then he PR. Or maybe just basically keep take a place, spray the piece. Take a piece. I got pants in my pants. I told you.
That is Shake That Ass by Bossman D-Lo. This is the song that has went viral. I don't think he had any other song that went viral. It's got millions of views. That was another earworm. We have to be careful of mass hypnosis, and hopefully, as we go forward, no matter who becomes president, that we are okay in the universe.
Bro, let me say this in closing.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I appreciate this new terminology that you taught me tonight called earworms. But I'm gonna say your earworms concern me. Because I have not heard of either one of those songs. Neither would they be playing repeatedly in my head. In fact, you're telling me that this song has over 1 million views. I don't know who those
millions, multi-millions.
But I can tell you that I am not one. I am not one. I have not heard that song. Anything.
Brother, you got to get it together.
In fact, I don't even.
You have changed, brother.
Well, I'll take that because I can tell you if something like that came on my radio station, I can't tell you how fast I would turn the station. So, I don't know where you spending your time, bro, Douglas. But it
obviously not on the doctorate level. I've been making some stupid decisions.
It is in some unproductive places, brother.
Don't like him, brother. Wait, no, brother. That's not Islam.
No, sir.
Well, we're going to pray for Lord Jamal, brother, and all the rest of you people out in the universe that need help. You need help. Get help. I told somebody the other day, seek help. You need it. If that's what you think, you need help.
Definitely.
And on that note, Dr. Moore, I'm gonna say, what did we say? I don't forgot what the hell we say at the end of this shit. See, I done erased everything. I didn't mean to erase my memory with the spell. How do we end this podcast?
What? With peace and good night?
Yeah.
Yeah. And inshallah, we should do this again soon.
Indeed.
And you normally say peace and greetings to the audience.
Peace to the universe.
Peace to the God.
Hold on, brother. Hold on. Call you back.
Okay.